This co-star is the person Tim Allen hated the most, and the truth about them might surprise you. The well-known comedian who made a living by making people laugh has strong feelings for someone he worked closely with for many years. Even though Tim Allen always seems happy on screen and is known for his trademark laugh, his real relationship with this co-star got worse and worse. Who could have made Tim Allen feel so badly? Allen's answer lies in a complicated past full of hurtful job choices, misunderstandings, and things he thought were betrayals. Let's find out the truth about Tim Allen and the co-star he was said to hate. Well-known bonds. There are a lot of popular friendships in Hollywood, but not all of them are real-life friends. Tim Allen has had a great career in show business, spanning over 30 years, and has worked with many stars. But from his big break as Tim the Toolman Taylor on Home Improvement to playing Buzz Lightyear in the Toy Story movies, Allen has worked with some of the biggest names in the business. A lot of these business ties turned into real friendships that have lasted for a long time. Toy Story co-star Tom Hanks has said nice things about Allen many times, and the two have stayed friendly even though they didn't spend much time singing together for the movies. Allen had a great relationship with Nancy Travis, who played Allen's co-star on Last Man Standing for 9 seasons. People could see that they got along, and behind the scenes they respected each other, which made shooting fun for both of them. Allen once said that their friendship was like a perfect marriage, but without the sex, using a phrase from his wife, Patricia Richardson, who works in home repair. They were comfortable with each other, which let them play off of each other easily. This created the believable family dynamic that made Last Man Standing a hit for almost 10 years. While he was still on the show, Richard Karn, who played Al Borland on Home Improvement, stayed friends with Allen. They got back together for the History Channel show Assembly Required, which showed that their relationship had grown since their comedy days. These good relationships with Allen's co-stars show that he can build long friendships with them, which makes his strong dislike for one co-star even more interesting. Problems at work. In the tough world of stand-up comedy, Tim Allen learned the hard way before he became famous. The path he took wasn't always easy, and going from comedy clubs to TV had its difficulties. When Home Improvement came out in 1991, Allen was put in the spotlight with kid actors and people who weren't well known. As the star of the show, Allen was responsible for its success, which created natural pressure that sometimes showed up as intense moments. Some of these problems were real for Patricia Richardson, who played his wife Jill Taylor. Even though they seemed to get along great on screen, Richardson later said that behind the scenes they sometimes fought over creative differences. In an interview, she said that Tim loved the show very much. That enthusiasm came across as intense at times, making it hard to work with. Even so, Richardson insisted that she and Allen respected each other, even when they didn't agree. Allen also learned how to work as a TV producer during the first few seasons of Home Improvement. People who worked long hours and were under a lot of pressure to give consistent results were more likely to get angry. Some crew members from this time period have said that Allen could be very picky about how things were done. A staff writer from the past said that Tim knew what was funny and what wasn't. He would tell you right away if something didn't work. This straight style didn't always work well with everyone on the production team. Allen's control over the show grew as Home Improvement became more popular. More power came with being successful. Allen started to take charge of the show in ways that sometimes made the writers and other stars angry. Many people liked how funny he was, but others found it hard to deal with his growing power. But these early problems were just a warm-up for the relationship that would become Allen's most tense working partnership. Problems with rising stars. The cast of Home Improvement became famous when the show became one of ABC's biggest hits in the 1990s. This made their everyday lives different. For Tim Allen, this meant going from being a stand-up comedian to a TV star very quickly. The success of the show led to roles in movies like The Santa Claus and Toy Story, which solidified his place in Hollywood even more. But this meteoric rise wasn't easy, especially when it came to juggling relationships with co-stars, whose jobs were also on the rise. The kids who played Allen's sons on Home Improvement, Zachary Ty Bryan, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and Taron Noah Smith, got a lot of fans very quickly. Thomas, in particular, became a teen star. He was on the cover of a huge number of magazines and got thousands of fan letters every week. As their careers grew, they had to balance the demands of a hit show with their growing careers. This led to scheduling problems and shifting goals that Allen sometimes found hard to understand. Alan had worked hard for years to be successful, and he sometimes got angry at what he saw as the younger cast members' lack of respect. He is said to have told a team member, "I came up the hard way. These kids are very fortunate." As the show went on, this gap between generations became more clear, especially with one young co-star whose goals went beyond home improvement. As some group members started getting offers for other projects, things started to change on set. Movie parts, voice acting jobs, and other TV appearances made it hard for home improvement producers to make schedules. Alan was still dedicated to the show that made him famous, but he saw that not everyone was as focused on it as he was. This difference in professional goals set the stage for the relationship with his co-star that would become his most contentious. What happens behind the scenes, a play. Behind the scenes, things were getting worse for the family that seemed perfect on Home Improvement. As the show's later seasons went on, it became harder and harder to see the tension between some cast members. Crew members sometimes heard heated arguments after the cameras stopped running. The set, which had been peaceful before, became tense, which made it harder to work. As the star of the show, Tim Allen set the tone for many of these encounters. Because he was a perfectionist, scenes had to be reshot many times until he was happy with them. This made for long days that were hard on everyone's patience. Tim knew just how he wanted a joke to land. According to the director of one show, "We'd keep going until it did if it didn't work the first time." This way of doing things made good TV, but it also made the workplace very stressful, which not everyone liked. The tensions of these situations were also felt in the writer's room. Alan began to turn down plots and dialogue that didn't fit with his vision for the show as he became more creatively independent. This made the writing staff angry, and some of them thought their original ideas were being ignored. A former writer remembered that Tim would sometimes change whole scripts because he didn't like them. It might bring you down after putting so much work into something. As the show went on, things got more confusing between the actors, who played the Taylor family. On screen, they played a close-knit family, but things were more complicated in real life. Later, Patricia Richardson said that keeping up the appearance of family harmony sometimes meant acting professionally, both on and off camera. "We were like any other family." She said that we had good and bad days. Every day was different. Some days we got along great, and other days we just did our jobs and went home. As the home remodeling business kept doing well, the public didn't know much about these issues going on behind the scenes. Fans only saw the finished product, which was a polished sitcom about a loving family that finds fun in life's problems. In reality, though, there were disagreements at work. Disagreements over ideas, and one relationship that would finally get so bad that it could not be fixed. The co-stars are coming out. Years after Home Improvement ended, some of Tim Allen's old co-stars started talking about what it was like to work with him. Based on these reports, we got a complicated picture of a talented performer who, at times, could be kind and strict. Patricia Richardson, who played Allen's wife on TV for 8 seasons, has probably given the most fair view. Easy to work with. Casey Wilson, an actor, recently talked about a very different experience from the short time she worked with Allen on The Santa Clauses. On her show, Wilson called the interaction the worst thing I've ever had with a co-star. She said Allen told the directors that she was blocking his lines during a scene and that he was rude and dismissive the whole time they were together. He was so rude when he was done. They didn't look at each other or say anything. Wilson said it was so awkward, and she also said Allen acted like she was the helper instead of a fellow artist. Richard Karn, who played Al Borland on all of the seasons of Home Improvement, has mostly good things to say about working with Allen. Their continued work relationship shows that they are really friends, even though Karn agreed that Allen's direct way of talking to people could bother some people. "Tim always tells you what's going on." In an interview in 2021, Karn said this, "Being that honest doesn't always go over well, but I always liked knowing what he really thought." What was interesting is that Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who played middle son Randy Taylor, was not at many of these public events. People were wondering about his friendship with Allen because he wouldn't talk about his time on Home Improvement after leaving the show. While other child players from the show sometimes talked about their experiences, Thomas kept strangely quiet about his former TV father, which made things more tense. As Home Improvement moved into its middle seasons, there were small signs that Tim Allen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas's friendship was getting harder. Allen seemed to care about Thomas's growth as an actor like a father, so at first it looked like they were master and protege. In early interviews, they seemed to really like each other, and Allen often praised Thomas's natural ability and professionalism, even though he was young. Allen told Entertainment Weekly in 1993, "He's like a little adult. He's so good at what he does that I forget he's a kid sometimes." Around the 5th season, when Thomas became very famous, things changed. His picture showed up on magazine covers and in the beds of American teens everywhere, and offers to make movies started coming in thick and fast. Thomas continued to work on his house, while also meeting his other responsibilities. Thomas was still the one exception. The long silence, which lasted more than 10 years, made it seem like whatever had happened between them was more than just an argument at work. Allen knew how important it was for his crew to be loyal and work together, so Thomas's actions were hard for him to forgive or forget. While Allen has never directly called Thomas a jerk in public, several sources say that he has been much less polite when talking about the younger actor behind closed doors. This shows a strong emotion that goes beyond a simple argument at work and into a personal betrayal. Having different jobs. The paths that Tim Allen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas took after Home Improvement couldn't have been more different, which shows how their deep-seated differences made their relationship difficult. Allen put even more effort into his entertainment business and went from one successful project to the next without a hitch. After the end of Home Improvement in 1999, he continued to voice Buzz Lightyear in the Toy Story movies and appeared in the Santa Claus movies. In 2011, he returned to TV with Last Man Standing. He never gave up on show business, and he built a career that lasted over 30 years. Thomas, on the other hand, stayed out of the focus for most of the time. After high school, he went to Harvard University and then switched to Columbia University to study history and philosophy. As he put more emphasis on school and privacy, the few acting parts he got became less common. Fans and people who worked in the entertainment business, like Allen, who had built his life around entertainment, were confused by this big change from Hollywood. The main difference in how they went about their careers showed personality differences that had been there for a long time. Allen liked the traditional road in the entertainment business because it meant steady work and being seen by a lot of people. He had been a stand-up comedian before getting his big break on TV. Thomas had been playing since he was a child and wanted to find intellectual satisfaction and normalcy outside of fame. Allen sometimes said things that made it sound like he didn't understand Thomas's decisions. In an interview for Last Man Standing in 2011, he said, "I still don't understand leaving a successful career to go to school, but that's just me." Even though it seems harmless, this statement showed that Allen still couldn't understand Thomas's goals and how he makes decisions. After finishing Home Repair, they went in different directions, which made their differences even clearer and led to their breakup. Allen stayed deeply involved in the entertainment business while Thomas stepped back on purpose. Because they had such different values and goals in life, it was hard for them to get along again because neither man could fully understand or respect the other's choices. Tried to get along with everyone. People in the entertainment business were shocked when Jonathan Taylor Thomas showed up in an episode of Tim Allen's sitcom Last Man Standing in 2013. People began to wonder if this surprise meeting meant that the two had finally put their differences behind them. Thomas had a guest role as a diner owner whose daughter works for Allen's character. The way they interacted on screen didn't show that they had a troubled past. Behind the scenes, it looked like the reunion was, at most, shaky. According to people who worked on the production, Allen and Thomas kept up their professional courtesy, but their friendship didn't feel as warm as it should have. Another member of the team said that they were nice to each other, but they weren't really catching up like old friends do between takes. Another source said that they were friendly but not close, which suggests that real forgiveness was still hard to find even though the open hatred had gone away. Allen gave Thomas cautious praise that focused on his professionalism rather than their relationship when asked if he would work with Thomas again. Allen told Yahoo TV that Jonathan is a smart person. Being an actress has always been a joy for him. He then went to college and became interested in other things. This carefully neutral comment didn't bring up their past fight while recognizing Thomas's skills. Over the next season, Thomas showed up on Last Man Standing a few more times. In 2016, he even directed a show. Insiders said that the relationship never got back to the closeness that mentors and proteges used to have, but the fact that they kept working together suggested at least a professional truce. Someone who wrote for the show said that they worked well together, but there was always a sense of history between them that everyone could feel. The try at reconciliation was a step forward, but it wasn't enough to end their long-standing conflict. Neither man talked about their problems from the past in public. Instead, they put on a united professional front without talking about the personal parts of their relationship. Fans were hoping for a sweet reunion between the TV dad and his son, but the truth was more complicated and less rewarding. Not going back. During his career, Tim Allen has had disagreements with a number of stars, but it's clear which co-star he had the worst relationship with. There was a fight between him and Jonathan Taylor Thomas that seemed to hurt him the most and last the longest. Allen's strong response to Thomas's leaving of Home Improvement, especially his public questioning of Thomas's sincerity about his reasons for leaving, showed how he felt about the situation. He kept making cool references to Thomas years after the show finished, even though he was still friendly with other cast members. This is more proof that this wound took a long time to heal. Allen and Thomas have since worked together again, but only in a limited role. People who know both actors say that their relationship is friendly right now. People who have seen them work together on Last Man Standing say that the real warmth that they had in their early years on Home Improvement has never fully returned. This fight is especially interesting because it involved a well-known adult star and a young character who was growing up on set. Allen's apparent inability to accept Thomas's choice to chart his own course, along with what many people see as Thomas's false reason for his departure, made for a situation that would lead to lasting anger. Allen's friendship with his co-star is still the most talked about one he's had. Tim Allen hated Jonathan Taylor Thomas more than anyone else. Thomas was a co-star who Allen used to coach, but later came to see as betraying him. Some of their anger has lessened over time, but those who know them well can still see the scars of their fight. Let us hear from you now. Which Tim Allen part is your favorite? Write your answer in the box below.